Yes. So thank you for having me. My vice chairman, Dr. Musli Hosseini, was supposed to be here for this presentation, but I had some other engagement this afternoon. I said I should come and represent him here. So I put some few slides together to be able to address some of the issues that are raised in the topic, and that's what I'm going to present here. The challenges of managing the delicate balance between energy access, affordability, and also acceptability, quality of energy, is what we call the Energy Trilemma. Dilemma is for two things, but for three things you are trying to juggle with, you call it a trilemma. So it's a measure of how nations try to manage the energy system performance across those dimensions of energy quality, energy access, and also environmental sustainability. So we have this chart here that's often used to illustrate what energy trilemma is. A triangle, like a tripod, has energy security, which is having access to energy in a way that you can guarantee that whatever happens, you can be able to bounce back and still have your access to energy. And also issue of energy equity. Where everybody have access to energy, how many people have access, and how also do we ensure that in the future you will not deny people in the future of access to energy by what we call energy security. So you have both security, equity, and environmental sustainability as the tripod, the legs of the tripod called Energy Trilemma. Now, but the debate about Energy Trilemma often trigger to each of these three dimensions, depending on where you stand. If you sit at the base of the energy ladder, you'll be talking about having access, energy security. How can I have access to energy now and later? But if you already have access, then you are talking about how everybody could have. That's what you call energy equity. So the demand for energy equity is more pronounced among those who already have some and are willing to share, to get all of us to have. But when you come to the higher level of the ladder, then those who are there at that top, they talk about the quality of energy they have and they care about the environmental implications of what they are experiencing. So these three aspects of energy trilemma discussion are often hyped by different people at different times. Those who already have access to energy are talking more about environmental sustainability, and therefore they are not bothered about the access we're talking about. For example, those who already have built their industry, they already have base level, what we call the base load in their country, garnishing their cake with the icing of renewable energy. You know, when you have built a cake, you are garnishing the top with the icing. So for them, they can afford to build, to talk about renewable energy as a means of ensuring environmental sanity. Good. But we all agree that there is need to have access to energy first. Then you can think about what quality of energy we have. Because if you don't have access at all, you can't even live. And again, at the level of energy access there, it's a zero-sum game. I mean, when other people have, you wouldn't have. It's not, I mean, if the developing country cannot have energy to power the industry, they will continue to import from the developed countries. And you cannot develop your production capability without energy. So if you cannot have energy to the base load that you can deploy, dispatch day and night for your industries, forget about production. You are going to continue to import. So we must, while it is good to have a clean, very beautiful level of energy at that level, but we must ensure that we have the base load first, which can support our industry, which both day and night. I'm also a apostle of renewable energy. I have solar in my house, but you know that in the night you don't have sunshine, so you need to save enough energy in the day to be able to power industry at night. So, but if you have a dispatchable power, then you can dispatch it both day and night, and the industry can grow 24 hours. Next slide. Now, if you look at the cost, what does it cost to generate electricity of whatever side? There, you see on that list, you have the cost of different sources of energy And at the top, you have the most expensive ones. The renewable energy are very expensive per unit. Like lead speaker said, they will pay over time, but I can assure you that it's difficult to acquire it on our own at our own cost initially. I put a 4 kilowatt system in my house. It cost me over 3 million naira. So that means it's not easy to put a 4 kilowatts less than I passed my neighbor of a 25,000 naira generator. So, and for all you care, for those of us who are not who don't have, we live day by day. We live on a day by day. So we are paying higher over time, as he said, alluded, but we cannot afford that acquiring the initial cost. We are dying day by day with it. We are more comfortable dying day by day, dying at once. That's the way we live. It's a kind of social discounting rate. So this, unless there is a way to reduce that social discounting rate we have in our economy, then we'll continue to find it difficult to promote renewable energy only while as we are promoting our sustainably. Next slide, please. Now, let us think about how to enrich the debate. The debate we often have is about we compare emissions of countries in terms of geography by geography, maybe map by map. But let us compare emission person by person, emission per capita. If I look at what emission is going on in Europe, and every European, how much emission is given out to the atmosphere, compared to how much one Nigerian is giving out, you can see it is so small. So I think let's talk about emission caps. How much as a human being, because we all share this one sky, all of us, this globe. So if I must stay undeveloped because we want the globe to be clean, let them also come down a little, so that we can all come to a level that we can all grow and eat and survive. But if we talk about emission per capita, then you see that you can now give a limit, a cap of what is expected for every person in the world, and then we can announce that Africa will have enough headroom to be able to develop, and they will no longer have that kind of guilt that we are building coal, we are building this dirty plant because we are polluting the world. By how much can we actually increase the world? Next slide, please. So I just try to show here some from last year's exercise. A point that was made last year showed that many countries by 2020 were building coal power plants around the world. But because we depend on others to give us money to build our plants, we will not be able to build because they deny you of the loans, of the funding, of the grants. You won't be able to build. That's why the question raised by the last speaker about funding indigenous sources of development is important. We must determine that we cannot wait for others to come and fund our energy side. Otherwise, they will determine for us what kind of energy you will have to promote, whether it's sustainable or unsustainable. So we must find a way of building our own, putting our own future in our own hands, and putting it as Prof said, achieving what we call sustainable development through our own determined energy mix based on our interest. Today, the competition is not much about between self-generation and grid power. That's the major competition we have. Much of this is what we have as past my neighbor. They emit more emission in terms of per unit to compare to what a coal power plant will emit. A coal power plant will emit emission, but every household we have, not only do we have the gas, the diesel or the petrol generator emitting, but because we are also over capacity now, what we do is we have more than the capacity we need. If I have in my house 15 maybe kV generator, I don't use 15 kV. I put it on, I use maybe 10 kV. The rest is just putting the gas, putting the smoke in the air. I'm not using it, it's wasting. So, but if we have a way of that one put together, then you can put that as emission for all of us. That's why, like what GS is doing in Use market, it's doing the number of small generators you have in the market. If you go to this market, this UTC market in Abuja here, every store has small generator around the shop. And that's why markets often get burned. That's why in the north, you find that every shop has a petrol generator and a keg of petrol in his shop because they want to power when there is no source of supply. When there is fire anywhere, every shop becomes a source of fire because it hits there, it bombs up, and you see that as it becomes difficult to control. So this we can reduce by bringing in self-generations that are not coordinated in a way that you can provide power, at least not necessarily from the grid, but from a small source, that what we call it industrial clusters or market clusters that can have generation that can supply those markets, rather than having every individual have a household or every individual shop having their own generator. This is why NEC has brought some policies, which I will just mention. Next slide. Well, I mentioned those policies because, like I said, I just made this slide this afternoon. This policy we have put in place that will ensure that those small generators are removed and we have more coordinated generation. Includes the energy, what we call the embedded generation program, and then the one we also call the industrial clusters program. Now, these ones we're trying to encourage industrial clusters to have generation that supply those industry ring-fence for their own purpose, like the Aba Power, for example, that you allow those ones to have supply in their own and ensure that they have a level of reliability that can power the economy. Most of our industry don't connect to our grid because of reliability issues. And because of that, the amount of money that should also go to the grid go into small generators. I mean, for example, last year I was talking with somebody from MAN. They said they spent over 86 million naira on generator fuel alone in just 1 year. So if that were to go into the discourse accounts in terms of as a bills, I'm sure it will also raise their liquidity. So it's a vicious cycle. You don't power the industry. They are the main payers of tariff. They don't pay the tariff because you are not powering them, so you don't have liquidity to even invest in infrastructure to actually improve your supply. So there must be a way in which we can improve the infrastructure, supply the industry, and let those industrial clusters have enough energy that they can produce 24 hours, produce 3-shift industries, and be able to make the economy of the discourse better. We have also improved the mini-grid project, which we want to ensure that they also interconnect with the main grid, so that those industrial clusters and markets areas can become energized and be able to make it sustainable. So some of these things we think that they will help in producing more impact than just saying we want to encourage solar alone. Of course, we encourage solar, we want it to grow, but we want to make sure that it is in a mix that allows you to be able to produce an economy that can sustain itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdul Salam.